Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a story that honestly hits on some of the most universal human experiences out there. We're talking unwavering faith, completely crushing despair, and the kind of resilience that can literally weather any storm. We're breaking down a narrative from the Purushottam Katha, specifically the story of a fiercely devoted Brahmin named Sudev and his absolutely remarkable wife Gautami. And look, this isn't just some old myth. It's a really profound look at how we handle life's absolute worst disappointments and where we actually find our strength when all hope just vanishes.
So, right off the bat, this story forces us to confront what is probably the deepest test of faith imaginable. I mean, think about it for a second. What happens when you've prayed for a lifetime, when you've done literally everything right, lived with pure devotion, and yet you're still met with a definitive, undeniable no? Does your faith just shatter? Or do you somehow find a deeper, hidden meaning in that divine refusal? That's the exact conflict our protagonist Sudev is staring down. It's basically the ultimate representation of anyone who's ever had a heartfelt prayer go totally unanswered.
Now, to really grasp the weight of this, you've got to understand the sheer, mind-boggling scale of their dedication. 4,000. That's the number of years Sudev and Gautami performed extreme, grueling penance. Like, we're not talking about a weekend spiritual retreat here. For 4 millennia, this couple survived on nothing but dry leaves and water. And the singular focus of all this unimaginable sacrifice, they just wanted a child, specifically a son. The intensity of their focus was so massive that the texts actually say their penance caused the three worlds to tremble. And then, finally, after 4,000 years of starvation and prayer, the ultimate breakthrough happens. The trembling of the worlds actually reaches the heavens, and Lord Vishnu himself appears right before them, riding his magnificent eagle mount, Garuda. Just picture this scene. Sudev's eyes are welling up with tears of overwhelming joy. He folds his hands, looking directly at the creator of the universe, and asks for the one thing he spent thousands of years waiting for, a virtuous son. The moment of total triumph is here. Or, well, so it seems. But then, we get this totally devastating reversal. The ultimate wish of 4 millennia is flat out denied by the divine. Lord Vishnu looks at Sudev and says, "Ask for anything but a son. It is not in your destiny for 7 lifetimes." Wow. Just pause and put yourself in Sudev's shoes for a second. The exact entity you've worshipped, the universe itself, looks you right in the eye and says, the one thing you desire most is completely, utterly impossible. Not just in this life, but for 7 lifetimes to come. It is an absolutely crushing blow. So, how do you even react to a definitive no from the universe? Well, Sudev completely breaks down. The texts describe him just collapsing to the ground like a cut tree. His body's trembling, the tears are flowing, his courage and hope are entirely shattered. But then look at Gautami. She's hearing the exact same devastating news, right? She wanted this child just as badly, and yet she doesn't collapse. Instead, she steps right up and becomes the anchor her husband so desperately needs. Honestly, this is where Gautami truly emerges as the hero of our story. She actually bends down to her shattered husband and offers these incredibly profound words. She reminds him of the laws of karma, telling him that destiny yields only what is written, and that even 1,000 efforts are going to fail if fate is opposed to it. She basically urges him to keep his patience and accept God's will. And, her words remind us of such a vital truth. Sometimes, in our absolute darkest, most broken moments, God's greatest support doesn't come from some booming voice in the heavens. It actually comes from the unwavering strength of our life partner. She's stepping in as his spiritual rock, holding him together when he's literally falling apart. But here's the thing. As this incredibly emotional scene is unfolding, they aren't actually alone. Garuda, Lord Vishnu's divine mount, is watching the whole thing. And seeing this heartbreaking scene, a fallen, weeping devotee and his incredibly stoic, devoted wife, Garuda's heart just melts. He feels the profound tragedy of the whole situation. So Garuda turns to Lord Vishnu and steps in. He argues a really crucial point. He says, if a devotee's purest wish isn't granted after such insane sacrifice, how is anyone else ever going to keep their faith? He's basically acting as an advocate for humanity's hope, imploring Vishnu to reconsider. And in yet another stunning reversal, we get to see the really dynamic nature of divine grace. Lord Vishnu doesn't get angry at Garuda for stepping in, not at all. Instead, he just smiles. He looks at Garuda and says, if that is your wish, you grant them a son. He literally delegates the power of the boon directly to his mount. It's such a fascinating layer to the story because it shows that grace can sometimes flow through, well, pretty unexpected channels. Garuda joyfully uses a portion of his own divine essence to grant them the boon they've sought for thousands of years, instantly restoring hope to the completely devastated couple. So, following Garuda's blessing, the impossible suddenly becomes reality in this incredibly rapid, joyous progression of events. Gautami becomes pregnant, and in the 10th month, a radiant child is born. Literally overnight, this house that was once filled with the silence of austerity and the weeping of total despair is just bursting with unimaginable joy, celebrations, and grand acts of charity. They name the boy Shukdev, and you guys, he is everything they could have ever dreamed of, and then some. He's not just an ordinary child, he grows up to be radiant and incredibly humble. He's this brilliant scholar who quickly becomes a master of the Vedas, and an absolute favorite among all his teachers. For Sukdev and Gautami, getting to watch their son grow with such divine perfection, it finally feels like their lifelong struggle has culminated in absolute completeness. Like those 4 millennia of hardship were entirely worth it. Life is finally perfect. But of course, as with any good narrative arc, the story doesn't end there. The tranquility of their perfect life is totally interrupted by the arrival of the great sage Rishi Deval. Now, at first, the visit seems like it's just another reason to celebrate. The sage looks at young Shukdev, observes all his divine qualities, and praises Sudev, telling him how incredibly lucky he is to have such an outstanding son. You can just imagine the parents' hearts swelling with pride. But then, the atmosphere in the room shifts drastically. The sage's tone turns deadly serious. Just when we think the conflict is totally resolved, we get hit with this incredibly dark, staggering prophecy. Rishi Deval looks at them and says, "This child has only one flaw. He will die by drowning in water in his 12th year." I mean, talk about emotional whiplash, right? The son you literally starved for over 4,000 years, the son who was denied by God but granted by divine intervention, this perfect, radiant boy comes with an expiration date. In an instant, that prophecy completely shatters all of their hard-won happiness.
And once again, history repeats itself. How does Sudev react? Exactly the same way he did before. The universe has delivered yet another crushing blow, and Sudev just collapses under the unimaginable weight of this new destiny. He is entirely shattered. But look at Gautami again. The woman who survived a direct refusal from Bad refuses to break before a prophecy of death. She remains unbroken, maintaining her enduring, totally unshakable patience. Once again, she is the steady ground beneath Sudev's falling sky.
And this brilliantly sets up the ultimate philosophical conflict of our explainer. I want to leave you with a really provocative question to think about. Can a prophecy of death actually be changed, or is destiny the absolute final truth? When divine grace clashes with written fate, which force is actually stronger? Take a moment to think about where you draw your own strength when you're facing those immovable obstacles in your life, and what it truly means to maintain faith when the future seems overwhelmingly dark.